Some jobs are dirty and dangerous, demanding not just physical strength, but a certain kind of grit that only a few possess. These are the jobs that take place far from the comfort of land, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the rules of nature are unforgiving. Out here in the heart of the ocean, every day is a battle against the elements, taking place in hostile environments where the wind howls and the sea never truly rests. Yet people do them daily because our world depends on it. The energy that powers our cities, the fuel that moves our lives, all begins with these men and women who rise before dawn, ready to face whatever the ocean throws at them. On a day like any other, the world witnessed a nightmare unfold beneath the waves. What started as routine quickly spiraled into chaos as the calm surface gave way to a brewing disaster below. This isn't just a job gone wrong, it's about human courage and nature's raw power. When disaster strikes, it tests the limits of human endurance and the strength of the bonds between those who work side by side. Reports surfaced of an incident on a subsea pipeline. An accident that would soon grip the attention of the world and send shockwaves through the industry. Workers were trapped inside a massive steel pipe on the ocean floor, cut off from the world above, their fate uncertain as the clock ticked relentlessly onward. Imagine being confined, isolated with the ocean's weight pressing down. Every breath becomes precious, every sound amplified by fear and hope. The darkness is absolute, broken only by the flicker of headlamps and the steady rhythm of anxious hearts. The Trident pipeline incident in the North Sea reminded us that progress comes with a price. The drive to push boundaries and reach further into the unknown can sometimes lead to the edge of disaster. This disaster revealed the hidden world of those who build our modern infrastructure. Their work is often invisible, but their risks are very real, and their stories rarely told. It was a drama of survival, a testament to rescue teams' ingenuity, and a deeply human story. Against impossible odds, people came together drawing on training, instinct, and sheer willpower to save lives. People went to work one morning and found themselves fighting for their next breath. In those moments, every decision mattered, and every second counted. It's a dirty job, and what happened inside that pipe is a lesson in humility. A reminder that beneath the steel and machinery, it's the human spirit that endures, even when the ocean seems to hold its breath. The Trident pipeline was a massive steel artery transporting natural gas from the deep sea. Workers crawled through its 6-foot diameter, ensuring its integrity. Laying a pipeline on the ocean floor is a monumental engineering feat. The workers were pipe welders and internal inspectors, the last line of defense against catastrophic failure. They worked in a dry section of the pipe, a controlled environment, hundreds of feet below the ocean. Despite strict protocols, even the best-laid plans can go wrong. The pipe was a giant umbilical cord stretching into the abyss, with a temporary cap keeping the ocean out. On that fateful day, the barrier between their world and the deep failed. The ocean was meant to stay outside, but it didn't. The accident wasn't a loud explosion but a terrifying, insidious event. It began with a groaning shudder through the steel walls, a sign of immense pressure finding a weakness. The forward bulkhead failed and seawater blasted into the pipeline. The lights died, plunging the workers into suffocating darkness. Their workspace transformed into a death trap with freezing water and debris rushing in. Communication lines to the surface were severed, leaving the team isolated. The water level rose, but a pocket of compressed air saved them from drowning. The 4 men huddled in the dark, trapped in a shrinking bubble of air. The world had gone dark, and the ocean was closing in. They were disoriented, battered, and fighting for their lives. The ocean's roar promised to swallow everything in its path. Imagine total darkness, the groans of stressed steel, and your own panicked breathing. This was the reality for John Carter, Mark Renshaw, David Chen, and Liam Peterson. They were cold, bruised, and cut off from the world. Carter, the veteran, fought to restore order, doing a head count in the darkness. Hypothermia was a killer, so they huddled together for warmth. Their world had shrunk to a few dozen feet of pipe. Behind them a flooded tube, in front a pocket of trapped air. They had no light, food, or water, only the air they breathed. Every breath used up precious oxygen. They were helpless, unable to fix the breach or call for help. They talked to keep spirits up, sharing stories of their families. They rationed energy, conserving heat and oxygen. Trapped in a watery tomb, they prayed for a miracle. Their only hope was that someone knew they were alive. On the surface, chaos erupted as communications were lost. The crew, trained for emergencies but never truly prepared for the real thing, scrambled to make sense of the sudden silence from below. Every second felt like an eternity as the realization set in. Something catastrophic had happened deep beneath the waves. The ship's control room went into crisis mode, alarms blaring and red lights flashing across every console. Engineers and officers barked orders, their voices tense but focused as they tried to piece together what had gone wrong. The sense of urgency was palpable, with every team member aware that lives hung in the balance. The data showed the forward bulkhead had failed, flooding the pipe. The numbers on the screens told a grim story: pressure dropping, water levels rising, and the integrity of the pipeline compromised. It was a scenario they had trained for, but hoped never to face. The mission shifted instantly from research to a desperate search and rescue operation. Crew members donned emergency gear, transforming the vessel into a floating command center for survival. The atmosphere was tense, but determination was etched on every face. A remotely operated vehicle, ROV, was deployed to inspect the pipeline. The crew watched anxiously as the ROV disappeared into the dark, cold water, its cameras and sensors their only link to the disaster unfolding below. The ROV detected subtle temperature variations suggesting a trapped air pocket. This tiny anomaly on the thermal display was a potential sign of life, a fragile bubble of hope in the vast, crushing depths. This sliver of hope galvanized the rescue team. Suddenly, exhaustion and fear gave way to renewed energy. Every member of the crew knew what was at stake, and they pushed themselves harder, driven by the possibility that survivors were still waiting to be saved. Acoustic sensors confirmed a significant air bubble 2 miles from the breach. The data was clear: somewhere in the darkness, men were alive, clinging to life in a pocket of contaminated air. The men were alive, but their air was limited and contaminated. Time was now their greatest enemy, as every breath brought them closer to the edge. The pipeline was at a depth of over 600 feet, a lethal pressure that made any rescue attempt perilous. The crushing weight of the ocean above meant that even the smallest mistake could be fatal. The rescue plan had to be bold and executed with precision. There was no room for error, and every detail was scrutinized as the team mapped out their next moves. Engineers, divers, and robotics experts devised a strategy, pooling their expertise in a race against time. Each specialist brought unique skills, and together they formed a team capable of tackling the impossible. They were performing keyhole surgery on a steel pipe in a storm, battling not just the elements but the limits of technology and human endurance. The sea raged around them, a constant reminder of the dangers they faced. The world watched as one of the most complex rescue attempts began. News crews gathered on the shore, broadcasting updates to millions who held their breath, hoping for a miracle. The rescuers were fighting to reunite families, making it personal. For those waiting on shore, every moment was agony, their hopes and fears intertwined with the fate of their loved ones. The lead engineer promised they were doing everything possible. His words, broadcast to the world, were a vow to the families and to his own team. They would not give up. The families and rescuers were united by a desperate hope, clinging to the belief that against all odds, the trapped men could be brought back to the surface alive. Working underwater at such depths is perilous. The pressure is 20 times greater than on the surface, affecting the human body. Saturation divers live in a pressurized habitat, allowing them to work at deep-sea pressure. They travel in a diving bell, working for hours without decompressing. It's an isolating existence, living in a cramped metal box. These divers were the hands and eyes of the rescue operation. They worked in near-total darkness, handling heavy equipment. A single mistake could be fatal, but they were the tip of the spear. They ventured into an environment more hostile than the moon. As the technical drama unfolded, a human drama took place on land. Families of the trapped men gathered at a crisis center, caught in limbo. They received updates, but the information was often technical and uncertain. The media descended, making the incident a global news story. The faces of the 4 men were broadcast worldwide, humanizing the crisis. Public support poured in, but the families' grief played out publicly. Inside the crisis center, families bonded, finding solace in shared ordeal. John Carter's wife became an unofficial spokesperson, inspiring others. They watched news reports, prayed the storm wouldn't halt rescue efforts. Rescuers felt immense pressure, fighting to reunite families. The lead engineer promised they were doing everything possible. The rescue plan was daring and dangerous. Every second counted, and the margin for error was razor-thin. The team knew that one wrong move could spell disaster, but the determination to save the trapped men outweighed every risk. The stormy night only heightened the tension as waves crashed against the ship, and the wind howled relentlessly. After careful deliberation, the team decided to go through the side of the pipe, a move that had never been attempted in such conditions. The pipeline, battered by the elements, became the focal point of a race against time. A hot tap clamp was attached with painstaking precision, and a specialized drill bored a small hole through the thick metal. The operation required nerves of steel and absolute focus from everyone involved. This small opening allowed for pressure equalization, a vital step to prevent further collapse. Fresh air was pumped in, and for the first time rescuers could communicate directly with the men inside, offering reassurance and hope. A camera probe was carefully inserted, revealing the pale, exhausted faces of the trapped men. Their eyes, filled with fear and anticipation, stared back at the rescuers, a silent plea for help. A cheer erupted on the ship. They were alive. Relief swept through the crew, but the hardest part was still ahead. John Carter's voice crackled through the speakers, weak but clear. His words, though faint, brought hope to everyone listening. Supplies and warm air were passed through the hole, giving the men inside a lifeline. Food, water, and blankets were carefully transferred, along with messages from loved ones. The second phase involved cutting a larger hole for escape. Divers working in near-zero visibility used torches to slice through the thick steel, their movements slow and deliberate. Saturation divers worked with precision, despite the storm raging above. Their training and teamwork were put to the ultimate test as they battled exhaustion and the elements. Finally, the cut was complete, and the men were helped through the opening. Each survivor was carefully guided out, greeted by cheers and tears from the rescue team. They were transferred to the diving bell and pressurized habitat, where medical teams waited to assess their condition and begin the long process of recovery. The survivors would spend days decompressing, their bodies slowly adjusting to normal pressure. But they were safe, and that was all that mattered. The race against time had been won. As dawn broke over the calm sea, the sense of relief was palpable. The world watched as the men emerged, weak but alive. Their ordeal had captured hearts everywhere, and their survival was nothing short of miraculous. Their story became a symbol of hope and the indomitable human spirit, inspiring people across the globe to believe in the power of courage and unity. The rescue was hailed as a miracle of engineering and courage, a testament to what can be achieved when people refuse to give up. The disaster led to overhauls in safety regulations worldwide, ensuring that such a tragedy would never happen again. The legacy of the rescue endures, a reminder of what humanity can accomplish in the face of overwhelming odds. The rescue was hailed as a miracle of engineering and courage. The men emerged from decompression, reuniting with families on a global stage. They were weak, but their story symbolized hope and resilience. The saturation divers and engineers were celebrated as heroes. A thorough investigation revealed a chain of small errors leading to failure. The disaster prompted overhauls in safety regulations worldwide. New standards for bulkhead design and testing were implemented. The incident served as a catalyst for change, making the job safer. For the 4 men, life would never be the same. Some returned to work, while others stayed on solid ground. Their story is a tribute to the human spirit and the risks people take.